Hello there. I am Dawn Westmoreland coming from WPVM FM LP 103.7, the voice of Asheville. I am coming from Asheville, North Carolina, the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains. I am your talk host. I have a syndicated radio talk show called The Empowered Whistleblower, where my guest and I blow the whistle on empowering things that make this a better world. Today, we're about resiliency. We live in a world where people want instant quicks. They're praying, to whoever they're praying to, whether it be God, Buddha, whoever, to take the problems away from them because it's just too much for them. But the truth is that if you can embrace all your experiences, you can be a more empowered person. My show airs every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone, or whatever time you're listening in to any of the Pacifica Network stations. That's in the United States, that's in Canada, and the Virgin Islands. So welcome, welcome. Today, I want to talk about mastery of your emotions. And this subject came up recently because I'm going to admit I lost it. I lost it on a family member that um, was really upset that, well, let me just put it out. They did not want to watch my dogs, and the dogs were running out the front gate and the front door, and I was afraid they'd get on the highway eventually. And I lost it. I snapped and they snapped, and it got ugly. And I thought, wow, I haven't done this in a very, very long time. I have not lost mastery of my emotions. So that just goes to show, I've been practicing this for a very long time, mastering my emotions, not losing it, staying calm, staying grounded. But the truth is we can all get off track when it comes to our emotions. So being more resilient is being mindful of your emotions. And I like to admit when I make mistakes or, I also have my failings. So I want to start out with a story. Maybe about 5, 6, 7 years ago, I'm terrible with time. I had a family member who famous, very famous for letting people live with them. And these people would take advantage of them. And I'm going to come right out and say it was my mother because I love my mother. She turns 83 soon. My mother has a heart of gold. She's always been a community leader, and she's also, as an introvert, she's done vision screening as a volunteer 30 years. She has, played her organ, piano for her church for free for 30 plus years. And so people would see her as a good person and they would take advantage of her. And at first I was like, do I really want to say my mother? And I'm like, yes, I do. I really want people to know how real it is. So about 5, 6, 7 years ago, probably closer to 6 years ago, my mother had taken in this lady, and I'm just going to call her Susan. And that was not her real name. Okay. I'm just going to say Susan. And what I did not know about Susan was, and I didn't even know what a narcissist was at the time, but Susan started out like a lot of narcissistic people, and she ended up being one of my best teachers. Yes, mean people can be your best teachers. And I haven't even told you she was mean. So she started out being a family friend, lovey-dovey to my mother, best friends with my mother. Mom's an introvert and doesn't like confrontation. Her daughter's, a little bit different. I don't want to confront everybody, and I like to choose my battles wisely. But sometimes we do have to speak up and speak out for people and ourselves too. Well, as time went on, this woman wrapped her, I'm going to say tentacles, and just be a human being. She started trying to get my mother to tell her, all the family secrets. I mean, we all have secrets in the family, right? But she wanted to know all my mom's appointments, where she was going to be, how long. I mean, she was trying to control her life. And of course, I don't live with my mother. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and my mother's in North Central Florida. So after a short time, after my mom had become really close, thought she had a good friend, somebody really cared about her, this woman started trying to break up the family. It was her way of trying to control my mother, because my mother is, vulnerable at the time, has health issues, is living by herself with her older sister. And So this woman, Susan, just started to try to break the family up. So when I would go down there, Susan would purposely say things that would upset me. And I have to admit, back then, at that time, oh boy, I lost it. I did not have good emotion mastery. I could not master my emotions. I saw right through this woman. I knew that she was taking advantage of my mother. And I also knew that she would continue to, and she was trying to divide the family up by getting everybody mad at each other. She was really good at this, like a lot of narcissists are. And so I would lose it with this woman. And what I didn't know at the time, because we're always learning. Even I'm learning, and I'm a coach, right? And a consultant. So I'm like, oh my God, every time I go down to see my mom, this woman pulls a stunt. Like, my mom and I are going to go off for the day and have a nice daughter day, nice mother and daughter day. And then the next thing I know is Susan is saying she feels like she's having a heart attack. Well, I don't know what a heart attack feels like. So we're taking her seriously, and we're taking her to the emergency. Come to find out there's nothing wrong with her. And I thought, wow, okay, that's good. There's nothing wrong with the woman. And, I wouldn't wish any ill on anybody. But then this became a daily thing when I was down there. She would do anything to try to come between my mother and I. And so I was full of anger. And I imagine if you're listening to this, you're saying, yeah, I know somebody like that is triggers me. Well, I let it get the best of me for over a year, and I'm not proud of it, but again, we're all learning. And then, remember talking to my mentor, and mentors have mentors. You always want to mentor with somebody, life coach, counsel, whatever you want to call it, consult with somebody that is further down the road than you are when it comes to whatever it is you're working on, if it's your personal growth, your spirituality. So I'm working with my mentor, and I'll call her Martha, and Martha says, well, Don, how is it working out? How is it working out, with Susan and your mother and getting along? And I said, Martha, it is not working out. And I was so, so distraught. And then she said, well, it must be meant to be that we're having this conversation, because I walked away from my kitchen table, and then I come back and here's this white table. I'm sorry, white feather on the middle of the table, right? And I'm like, wow, I've had things like that happen before. So I knew right then and there that there's something very significant that's going to happen at this table with Martha. So I listened to her, and it was painful because I did not want to hear what she had to say, what she was about to say, because I knew it would be painful. And she said, Dawn, you're letting her get the best of you. She's running your life. She's renting space in your head. The best thing that you could do is be nice to her. And I'm thinking, what the heck? What the hell? No, I can't stand this woman. She's taking advantage of my mother. She's, borrowing money, not paying back. We believe she was taking things that wasn't hers. Things were disappearing all the time. She was telling lies about family members. She was telling people that I was a bad person. And I thought, no way can I be nice to this woman. And Martha says, hear me out. So I listened to her, and I said, okay, all right. This sucks. I don't want to be nice to this woman. But Martha says, trust me with this. Surround yourself with white light. Put white light, imagine white light in your mother's house where mom was at the time. I was in the Air Force 20 years, and we hear people say, put white light in a space. You're like, what? This is kind of woo-hoo-hoo. But you know what? Here's the thing. Your energy, everything on this earth, pretty much 99 point, I don't know if it's 98 or 99% of everything is energy, right? So when you put that power of intention, energy, of loving light, and that's what I did, as crazy as it sounded, because, here I'm the logical, strategic minded Air Force retiree. And every day, I would imagine my mother's house being full of white light, full of angels, grace, the highest good, everything surrounded the house. And I did that. I did that probably for, oh, I did that for months, you know? And I remember on the phone talking to my mother, and my mother says to me, ah, it must have just rained. There's something about the air inside is just so light and feels so good. And I have to admit, I gasped. I'm like, oh my God, it's working, you know? And I said, oh, mama, you know, Mama, it's me praying for you. That's what I told her. And she said, well, thank you. Thank you, Dawn. And I'm like, of course, you know, and I kept it up. So when I went down to North Central Florida to see my mom, I said, well, if it kills me, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be stoic and I'm going to do this. So, like many times before, when I was in my mother's room, in her bedroom, which is her bedroom is so huge. I mean, it's like you could probably put 4 beds in it. It's a 200-year-old house that's, you know, had an add-on bedroom, and it's just a beautiful 200-year-old farmhouse is the best way to describe it because she's out in the country. And so oftentimes Susan would come in and she'd come in to talk to mom, and she did not care that I was there. She didn't care I was talking to my mom. She would step in between us. And it didn't matter. This woman is barely 5 feet tall with, you know, red frizzy hair and, you know, the voice of somebody who smoked all their life. She would stand right in front of us. She knew what she was doing. And I knew what she was doing too. So I had the opportunity, and I did take the opportunity. I took a deep breath, and you know what I did? I said, hi, Susan, how are you? It's so good to see you now that I'm down here. How have you been? You know, it's so good to be here and to see you. I didn't expect this, folks. Her whole body went rigid, like somebody, you know, in the Air Force standing at attention, or in the Army, it doesn't matter which branch of military. She got rigid. She pumped her hands, you know, made into fist. She couldn't say a word. She couldn't look at me. And my mother looked on aghast, and she said, Susan, what is the matter? And she's getting redder and purpler by the second. I had never seen anything like this, folks, never. What had happened is I took control of my emotions. See, Susan wanted me to get mad because my mom's a really kind person and doesn't like confrontation and doesn't like fighting, anything like that. Probably a lot of people are like that. And you know, Susan loved it because I'd get mad at her, you know, and then I would um, storm off and get my mother upset. That's what she wanted. So I sat there and I smiled at her and I said, oh, I'd love to see your dog. Can I go over and see your dog? You know, and so this woman's getting madder and madder. My mom's like, Susan, what's the matter? Are you okay? Because she looks like she is going to pass out. Her face is full of rage. I didn't expect this. I didn't. I was, I don't know who was more shocked, Susan or me. And then she finally stormed out of there. I think I was with my mom, I don't know, 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. And that woman stayed out of my way the whole time I was there. It would take a few months and a few legal letters to finally get her off the property. But that's an example. And that woman probably was one of my master teachers, and we all have them in our lives. It, yes, you can always look at the, you know, the coach that mentored you, whether it's a coach in school or a life coach out there, a counselor, a rabbi, a pastor, um, a priest. I mean, it don't matter. It doesn't matter. A spiritual counselor. It doesn't matter who it is. At times it can be the meanest, ugliest person. It could be a narcissist. And that was the case with her. So once I learned how to master my emotions, I never really had any more problems, except for that one time I slipped. And I did slip when I was mad at a relative when they kept letting my dog out and the dog would be getting out in the road and I was worried about the dog getting run over. I was angry. I was very angry. But it taught me something. It taught me at the time when I snapped, and I want to talk about self-care. I was exhausted. I won't go all into details. We all know what it's like to be overtired and exhausted and feeling just, kind of vulnerable, fragile. But it taught me a lesson. I was not grounded. And every day we have to be grounded. Oftentimes, I will talk about things that help us ground. For me, artwork, love it. I get in the zone. I don't have to impress anybody. It's just for me. I like mixed media. Love getting my hands in the soil. I love, love, love gardening. I've shared before that I earned a horticulture degree, which is one of my most favorite degrees in the world, did really well in it. And all the time I'm making garden planters or making planters, giving them away to people, gardening and taking pictures. I mean, that just fills me with joy. Let's talk about energy, as I brought up energy. A lot of people don't realize because they don't know any different. We've been conditioned, we've been taught, we've been trained, we've learned, we've studied on our own. But when you're a victim, and I'll be the first to admit I have played the victim, I've been the best victim in the world. And that's before I got my act together and realized being a victim is one of the lowest energy levels. Now, when I was going to IPEC coaching school for 9 months, Dr. Bruce Snyder invented, or he came up, created some, I forget what he called his program, but he breaks it down into the different levels of energy, with one being like the lowest. And that's kind of like victimhood. And where I think it's like 3 or 4 is more where, you're angry. Even being angry is higher than being a victim. Even being angry is better than shame and guilt. And how often do we beat ourselves up, men and women? Seriously, we beat ourselves up because we can't be super parent, super daughter, super son. Uh, we can't be great at a career and also just being ourselves, being our authentic selves. We beat ourselves up. And then a lot of times, I think unconsciously, we beat ourselves up because we're sick and tired of not being who we really are and being authentic, who we really are. We want to try to fit in. We want to wear the right clothes. We want to wear the right makeup, smell the right way, be skinny, you know, have enhancements and things. And I'm not putting any of that down. I think it's all very, very important to a degree. But the greatest beauty really is inside us and that inner light, and taking the time to make sure that we are the best versions of ourselves. Because when we're not the best versions of ourselves, that's when we make these mistakes. That's when I yelled at my relative. And I felt bad about that. I mean, I beat myself up because um, I knew better, but I lost it because I was overtired and I snapped. And I was also afraid of my dogs getting, under a tire, under a vehicle out in the road. And I lost it. But I think it's important to recognize that we're human and we're going to make mistakes. And even when we master things, it will also come back to revisit us and to teach us things. So moving forward, I would encourage you, think about, who's pushing your buttons. Surely somebody is. I mean, I get my buttons pushed all the time, but I've learned to, most of the time, and this especially when I'm not overtired, to step back and to observe, not absorb all the negative, nasty attention. I have a relative who tends to be toxic and negative all the time. I don't know why. From the outside looking in, you think, oh, they have a lot going on that's good for them, but we're not in that person's psyche or their mental health and stuff. And so I encourage you, you know, I'm a big advocate for mental health, good mental health. If you need help, Don't be ashamed, whether you're a man or a woman. I have worked with men, I've worked with women. Men feel just as bad as women do. They just, I mean, especially, I'm about to turn 60, the older men, they've been conditioned all these years to be tough, not to show any emotions or anything like that. But think about it, when it comes to energy, right? Think of it this way. They say our thoughts are energy. So if you're throwing out thoughts of anything negative, like, oh, I never get a break, I always am going to be taken advantage of or such. Um, the law of energy, law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, I always like to call it, intentions. Intentions have energy. What can you change about it? Well, at nighttime, before I fall asleep, I do a gratitude. And I call it not a journal. I should write, but I don't. I think I'm lazy when it comes to writing a journal, and I've been told over and over I should. And for some people, it's like anchoring their thoughts on paper. I just do kind of a verbal in my head. Thank you, thank you. This has been a good day, no matter what happened today or what didn't happen. And probably one of the best things I've learned over time, folks, is this: even when you're going through a very bad experience, no matter what it is, you've been mistreated, you're going through a divorce, your significant other's cheating on you, your child is doing drugs, whatever. We all go through different experiences, and we all know people who go through different experiences. What I would encourage you to do is reframe it. Be thankful for the experiences that are happening, even when they're sad, even when they're bad. I'm not saying be thankful to the person who's being bad acting, but what I'm saying is the actual experience. Because when you look at the experience, and let me go back to my time with Susan, man, I lost a lot of sleep over a couple years with that woman. I just about hated the woman, and I don't hate anybody. She was doing really awful things to my mother, taking advantage of my mother, breaking up the family, and everybody was scared of her but me. Well, I was nervous about her because she also knew where family possessions were and things like that, important things, the will and things like that. And I got that out of the house safely, thank you, in time. But I look at that woman, what did that woman teach me? Okay, first of all, that I gave her too much attention and thought, all the negative, that I lost a lot of sleep worrying about my mother being taken advantage of. I mean, it also was a lesson from my mom. My mom learned a lot out of it. It took her longer than I wanted it to, but you know what? We're not all one homogenous group where, we're all going to be the same. Some people take longer to learn things. Some people are, boom, they're quick. And some things I've grasped really quickly, and some things, wow, I was like, why didn't I learn that in my 20s, So that woman taught me a lot about myself, that has given away my personal power. And then once I realized how I was doing it, why I was doing it, I was able to make a plan of action. And that action was to turn things around, reframe it, and to be nice to her. So she did not want me to be nice to her. Susan wanted me to be ugly because then it upset my mother. And it also put a division between my mom and I, a lot of friction. We had a lot of heated arguments, my mom and I. And I was hurt and upset because I like, how can you not see this woman? She's taking advantage of you. I would list all the things she was doing, and it was right in front of our very eyes. But my mom at the time, I didn't realize, was quite concerned about the woman and a little intimidated by her. But things changed. No longer was my mom intimidated. There were one or two times we saw Susan in the county. She saw us and she could not get in her car fast enough to drive away. Now, we're not going to bother her. We're not going to harm her. We're not going to, agitate or anything like that. I just gave a friendly, hi, Susan, have a good day. And she was off. See, narcissists don't want to be exposed. And not only do they not want to be exposed, they don't want to be exposed in front of other people because their power is usually done in darkness, secluded oftentimes. Well, it can also be out in the public. But she was working her way, on getting more money out of my mother. And I'm just so glad that in the end, we were able to get rid of her. Now, one thing that I'm doing right now, I've been working on speaking, getting out. I've done some speaking, but I've upped my game to do more speaking out in the United States. And I'm excited. It is about resiliency, even though I have been an HR person now, oh my gosh, 32 years, and I still use HR and I still consult. It's important that everybody knows how to be resilient. And that's something I'm seeing around me all the time, that people are suffering with health issues, mental health issues. And boy, yes, they do have things going on in their life that are affecting them. They're very serious. Um, what I like to do is work with people on their resiliency. Now, I'm first to tell you, I'm a straight shooter. When it comes to legal action, I'm going to send you to an attorney or recommend an attorney. If it's a real serious mental health issue, the worst thing that I could do, or any coach or any counselor could do, is, work with somebody who has serious mental health issues. That's for a professional. It's an ethical thing. And I always have resources. And you can also go to Google. The government has free resources. Really, nobody out there, unless you don't want to, can get free help. So please, if you need help with whatever's going on in your life, don't let it get you down. Okay. It's easy for me to say this, and I've been the victim before. I'm always going to be straight with you. It's no fun being the victim. It doesn't look good on you. It doesn't reflect well on you, and other people also pick up that energy, and they don't want it. Nobody wants to be around negative people. And when you're a victim, you're seeing life in a negative way. And the truth is like, even though that woman, Susan, gave me so much heartache, I can't think of one person in my life, as far as being a nasty, negative person, especially a narcissist, that taught me more about mastering my emotions and being a better version of myself than her. So at night, I even say, thank you. Thank you for the experience with Susan, because it taught me so much about controlling my emotions, getting my act together, not projecting my fear and my anger on other people, because all it was doing was breaking up the family. And that's exactly what this woman wanted to do. So if I can be of any support to you, please reach out. If I'm not the right fit, that's okay. I will encourage you to reach out to another person. I have a lot of references. I also have a lot of people out there, resources that I'm happy to send you to if I'm not a good fit for you. And I leave you with this, the best investment is investing in yourself. Nobody can take it away from you. I mean, I'm proud to say, and I'm a nerd, and I'm good with it. I earned 4 degrees. The Air Force paid a lot of money to send me to school, and I've used a lot of this education and every day, and I'm so proud of it. But the thing is the best education that I've ever had is personal investment in myself. If I can be there for you, please reach out. I'm Dawn Westmoreland. You can find me on LinkedIn on Dawn Murray Westmoreland, and reach out. Ask for a 20-30 minute consultation by Zoom or phone. I'm happy to do so. Again, if I'm not the right fit, I will certainly let you know and do my very best to get you with the right people. So coming from Asheville, North Carolina, I'm Dawn Westmoreland, your talk host of the Empowered Whistleblower Radio Show, empowering you to have better resiliency and courage. Take care. We'll see you next time. It's been a joy.